Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being part of this special forum at the November 7th, about the November 7th bound referendum. I am Andrew Bell, Superintendent of Woodbury City Public Schools. So right now we are here at Woodbury High School, which received extensive renovations the last time our community approved a referendum. Tonight, you will hear about a proposal for improvements at this building and at West End Memorial. All of the projects would help us use space more effectively throughout their district. We want to share details with as many community members as possible, so this forum is also being offered virtually. The forum will be recorded for anyone who cannot watch tonight and posted on our website and on social media outlets. Please keep following those for updates on the referendum. Tonight, we will have designated times for questions throughout the evening, including from our virtual audience. And so we're going to begin. Just allow me a few seconds to kind of get back here into my space, and we'll be ready to get started. Let's see. So tonight we have a great panel of district leaders who are with us and professionals who will talk about our referendum. We'll also answer your questions. So let me introduce them. Sitting to my immediate left is our school business administrator, Ms. Nancy McCabe. It is her job to make sure that we are best using our resources for financial decisions for our district and taxpayers. Sitting to her left, many of you know our board president, Kathy Mangieri, who's active in the community. We also have two of our principals here tonight to talk about how the projects would help their students. Principal Jonathan Taylor, principal of the Woodbury Junior Senior High School, and Mr. Joseph DeLeese, principal of West End Elementary. We are also joined by our professional consultants that are working with us on the referendum. Mr. George Duthie is the architect who worked on plans for our building projects. And we also have our financial team. Mr. Tony Salamini is our bond counsel, yes. And Robbie Ankapour is our financial advisor. So before we get started, I just want to go over how tonight will work. We will follow a schedule of key topics about the referendum. We will explain how we ended up prioritizing these projects and why we think a referendum is the correct way to get them done. You will hear Mr. Duthie talk about the projects. Then our principals will explain why improvements are needed. Financial experts will outline how the district could make $22.7 million in upgrades with no increase in taxes. Finally, we will go over everything the community needs to know about voting. After each segment, we'll take a few questions related to the topic from both in-person audience and those tuning in online. We ask that everyone keep their questions brief and to the point so we can cover as much information as possible. If you're joining us virtually, please use the Zoom chat function to submit your questions. Your questions will not appear on screen, but you can be sure that we are seeing them and we'll do our best to ask them during the appropriate segment. So we've been talking a lot about referendum over the last few months, but the reasons for the proposed projects were years in the making. Sitting next to me is Ms. McCabe. I'm going to ask her, Ms. McCabe, can you just talk to us about the preschool, how preschool enrollment has grown over the years and how that has led to our need for more space?
Sure. So we now have 150 preschool students, and we have a waiting list for that. That's about triple the number of students that Woodbury Schools had a decade ago. Woodbury Schools received a preschool expansion grant from the state, which lets us offer tuition-free preschool to more families. That grant doesn't cover the cost of additional space to house the preschool students. That's why we're planning an addition at West End with 8 preschool classrooms.
And Ms.
And
McCabe,
Ms.
is it
McCabe,
just
preschool
that we are seeing enrollment increases, or are there in other grades as well?
We are seeing overall growth, and West End and Woodbury Junior Senior High School are well beyond capacity. Now, that's a great sign that more families are choosing to live in Woodbury, but we need more space to accommodate them. Preschool enrollment is the biggest driver of crowding issues, partly because the state grant requirements limit us to 15 preschool students per class. By dedicating new space to preschool, we can use our existing buildings more effectively.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, how about the new space here at Woodbury Junior Senior High School?
The nice thing is we can make better use of existing space. We are proposing renovations for the locker room area under the Cap Payne gym, and the 4th floor would become a hub for career and technical education. That's just, right now, it's just used for storage.
There's a lot of interest in career and technical education in our community. We found out a few years ago through our strategic plan that that is something that we wanted to focus on. And so that became one of our goals. It's really important for us to prepare all of our graduates for their next steps. And in Woodbury, we know that for some that could mean college, and for others that could also mean a career.
Thank you both, Ms. Mangieri and Ms. McCabe. We will get into much more detail on the projects with Mr. Duthie in a few minutes. So community members, you might want to hold your questions if they're about a specific project. For now, does anyone here have a question about how our district selected these projects? Do we have any questions on the virtual forum? So Mr. Duthie, we talked a little bit about the building addition at West End. Let's hear more about the new space and renovations prepared for West End Memorial.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Bell. So the addition at West End Memorial is going to have space for 8 full-size preschool classrooms, full-size, okay, with self-contained toilet rooms to meet the state standards for modern pre-K classrooms, okay, fully self-contained. A full-size gymnasium that's also going to serve as a multi-purpose room for the building. It's going to have a platform in there for assemblies and things like that. We're going to renovate the existing all-purpose room / cafeteria for more efficient use of space, primarily that we can get more students in there at lunchtime. We're going to remove the stage, and that's going to give us an area to place additional cafeteria tables in the all-purpose room at the West End Memorial Elementary School. We, as I said earlier, we'll have a platform in the new multi-purpose room / gymnasium for assemblies and other uses. On the outside of the building, we're going to move the basketball court. We're going to add some parking spaces, and we're going to build a brand new accessible playground as well at the conclusion of the construction of the addition. So there were some questions about the number of parking spaces. We're not really increasing the number capacity of the school other than by those 8 classrooms and the staff that would be working in there. So those students would be attending West End anyway. They'd be going there in any event. So we're going to relocate the preschoolers who are currently in West End to that new addition. So we're really not going to be increasing the overall population of the school that much in terms of parking. But let me comment a little bit on traffic, because I know there was a question about traffic, and there will be a traffic study done once the referendum passes and we begin the actual work of designing the full design of the building. We will do a traffic study that will be part of the project in cooperation with the city of Woodbury. Let me tell you a little bit about the plans for the junior-senior high school. So as everyone knows, we just did emergency repairs at the Campaign Gym. Happy to say that that is reopened, but there are some additional work items that need to be done at the Campaign Gym. Not much has been done there over the years. So what are we going to do? We're going to refinish the gymnasium floor, some other miscellaneous items in the gym with the folding partition pockets and things like that. We're going to renovate the lobby. We're going to renovate those bathrooms, and we're going to try to make those ADA compliant as well. So we have a plan for that. We're going to install an elevator at the Campaign Gym lobby in order to go down into the basement locker room area. And we're going to renovate that area downstairs. We're going to do an updated and enlarged weight and cardio room, a much larger trainer's room suite, 2 health classrooms downstairs as well as modernized locker rooms, toilet facilities, team rooms, etc., and much better connectivity also within that basement area, again, to be accessible by an elevator as well. The unused 4th floor space in the older building of the high school will be converted to a CTE, Career and Technical Education Classroom Suite. Will actually be 2 rooms, and in there will be a very flexible design that will allow that room to be used for many purposes. And again, that space will be accessible from an elevator from the 3rd floor, so everyone can get up there and enjoy that new space when it's completed. So thank you.
Thank you for that information. We have a question about our project schedule.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I could speak towards the schedule in general. Is that what you'd like me to do, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, so we have a question real quick. What is the timeline for that project? How long would that take?
Sure. So the project will be, we have to pass the referendum in November, and after that we have to do design. So we'll probably get out the bid on the project sometime in the spring, early summer of 2024, and we'll continue our construction, once we're out to bid with the contractors on board, into 2025. So the end of 2025, I would say we should be finished with the majority of the work, certainly with the Campaign Gym work. The addition at West End Memorial could carry on a little longer. Okay, that's a bit of a bigger project, but I would expect that everything will be done in 2026 spring or something like that. But mostly, I think we'll have the bulk of the work at the end of 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Duthie.
Sure.
Now that we've heard about the projects, we do want to hear from our school leaders, and we want them to talk a little bit about why these projects are needed. So we'll start with Mr. DeLeese. How is the crowding at West End affecting students from day to day?
All right, thanks, Mr. Bell. To set classrooms aside for preschool, we're doubling and tripling the uses of other rooms. We have less space for small group instruction, and it's difficult for counselors to meet with students in private. Also, West End has the largest enrollment of the elementary schools, but the smallest all-purpose room. We have shortened lunch periods and recess periods, so we can more quickly rotate students, but still schedule everything in the APR. Our gym classes are often held outside, but on bad weather days or inclement weather days, PE is actually held in classrooms, so it's not much space to move. And more space would just let us run our school much more effectively.
And if I could just add to that, there's a community benefit to building a new gym at West End. The space would be available for community use as long as it follows our board policy. And this could serve as a much needed community center that Woodbury does not have right now.
Thank you both for that. And what these projects can mean, not just for the school population, but that's for the community. So let's see if we have Any questions? So I want to ask a question here from the community. So one of the questions are, what about in this referendum, what's being done to Walnut or what's happening at Evergreen schools, and how are those schools being impacted by the referendum?
Walnut and Evergreen would indirectly benefit from the addition because we would no longer have to borrow space to try to fit more preschool classrooms. Walnut and Evergreen school buildings could not be expanded, so that's why West End was chosen for the addition. The West End addition also would ensure all families in the district can receive state-funded, tuition-free preschool.
Thank you. So we also have like some very big improvements that are proposed for high school, and we have our school leader here, our building principal, Mr. Taylor, to tell us more. So let me turn it over to Mr. Taylor, and he's going to tell you more about the improvements at the high school.
Good evening. Thank you. We currently offer some popular CT courses, but we just don't have the physical space to add additional ones. So renovating that fourth floor will allow an opportunity for us to have a career and technical education platform. That space is currently not being used. And plus, with our strategic plan as one of our focus areas, is having either a college or career path for all of our students that will help us meet one of our goals. And also just giving our students the opportunity to be ready for the workforce, right? You know, we want students to go to college. We also know that we have students that want to immediately go to the workforce. So this will also help prepare those students that want to go directly to the workforce with an avenue of success. Our sports teams, we had the ability to win 3 championships last year along with our band. But they actually don't have the proper facilities to train and exercise in. So renovating the campaign gym will give us the opportunity. Currently, our health and PE health classes are spread throughout the building, so we have to find individual classrooms. This will allow us the opportunity for all of our health and PE courses to be in one location. The gym being renovated will give us state-of-the-art facilities to match our state-of-the-art championships that we have. And also, this gives us more space for our students and brings us up to date in South Jersey. And for the campaign gym, I know we had the renovation to open a gym, which we did. However, our floor, our bathroom, our lobby needs some much needed improvements as well.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you for talking about all the possibilities. I know that sounds exciting as a school leader. And before we move on to talking about the plan to fund these improvements, let's just take a second to see if we have any questions about the high school. Any questions? We have a question right here in the library. So we know that that's been an issue. We've heard that before. And we are looking at space. You know, now that we have the auxiliary gym right outside the campaign, we're going to have to make some arrangements for handicap parking. There's a few parking spaces available along that fence as you kind of come up that hill. And we probably have to turn those into some spaces for folks that need access to campaign. And so that's not lost on us. We will address the parking issues.
Yeah. And also just to consider, I know one of the major renovations to the campaign gym was adding an elevator. So particularly in the design of that, that could be a particular option depending on the location of where that could be at for that lower level parking lot on top of the upper level parking lot where the campaign gym would save people from walking. So that could be a potential discussion in design of where the elevator would be placed at.
In other words, it will be an entrance, the lower part of campaign that could take you right up to the gym if the handicap parking is located down on the lower lot. We have any more questions? So we just had a question from our live audience, and we want to make sure that our virtual audience gets to hear the same question. The question was about handicap parking at Cap Payne Gymnasium, and we will be addressing handicap parking in a couple of ways. We will look for parking spots that are already designated at the top part of Cap Payne Gymnasium and just allocating them for handicap spaces. Also, the Cap Payne Gymnasium will be outfitted with an elevator that you will have access to from the lower lot that could take you right up to the playing floor of the Cap Payne Gymnasium for those who will either couldn't find parking at the top or do not want to take a long walk up steps to get to the gymnasium. So we thank you for that question from our live audience member. So we also have our ACE expert team here to explain our financial strategy. We have worked with our financial advisors throughout this process to make sure that these improvements are tax neutral. I kind of want to just repeat that. So we have worked with our financial advisors throughout this process to ensure and to make sure that these improvements are tax neutral. Ms. McCabe, can you just take a few minutes to tell us what does that actually mean?
Sure. We know we have to take care of these building needs, but we want to address them without any change in what our residents are paying now for school debt tax. The timing is key. The debt that we currently have from the previous referendum project is coming to an end. We're taking every step we can to offset that local share. A big advantage of a referendum is availability of state aid. Woodbury would get $7.2 million towards the $22.7 million in project costs. We've also been careful to save in our rainy day fund, which is called the capital reserve. And we would contribute another $1.7 million from that capital reserve fund to help ensure the steady tax rate.
So Nancy, if I could piggyback on that, I think for the benefit of the audience, when Nancy and other presenters have talked about state aid, I think it's important to note that the state aid is only available if this referendum passes. And something to give everyone that's watching this and in the audience there, I think some really positive vibes is you're, as a community on a percentage basis for these same projects, you're getting about 50% more in debt service aid than other communities would get. So, you know, there are some real advantages of doing these projects through a voter-approved bond referendum, and it's that assistance from the state. I mean, additionally, your district has done a really good job of squirreling away money in the capital reserve fund. Not a lot of districts have that much financial discipline to put those kind of dollars away. So your board, your administration should really be commended for the job that they're doing. A couple other points just about the benefits of a referendum. You know, in a school district, you have a general fund which pays for utilities and salaries and benefits and your general everyday costs. there's no way that your district, or any district for that matter, is able to fund these types of projects through their general fund. And that's why your district, along with other districts throughout the state, asked the voters to authorize the issuance of debt to pay for projects, because if not, it would be virtually mathematically impossible to get these projects financed. And it's a great benefit because then everyone in the community that's going to use these assets over their useful life pays their fair share. And many districts have been going to referendum, especially the last couple of years. And basically all the residents of Woodbury are paying into a fund to give debt service aid to these other districts that have approved referendum. So here's the opportunity for the residents in your district to get some of that money and to actually get a higher percentage of it to come back to your community.
Thank you, Mr. Salamini. We also know that the referendum question on the November 7th ballot will use much more formal language than we're using tonight. And you just gave us a great explanation about why we need this referendum and how it works. But can you explain the ballot question in more simple terms?
Sure. Happy to, Mr. Bell. And I apologize for the complexity of the question. And the reason for that is the majority of the language in the ballot comes directly from what's required by law. So what the law requires is that we state in the bond question the total amount of the projects, which in your case is $22,702,000. The question authorizes that the board will borrow that same amount of money to finance the projects. It provides a brief description of the projects, but we can't write an exhaustive description of the projects. That would just not be a workable solution in the question. So it gives a brief overview of the projects, but your architect, Mr. Duthie, has done a good job this evening, and I know you have information on your website to spell out the projects. Also, we're required by law to disclose the final eligible cost. And basically what that is in layman's terms is when Mr. Duthie submitted the project application, the state reviews those project applications and determines how much funding they're going to give on what projects are considered eligible. So we're required to disclose to the voters the eligible costs and also conversely the ineligible costs. And again, we put on the ballot question is that you have been approved for debt service aid at over 68% debt service aid, where the state minimum is 40%. So you're getting substantially more aid than the average district in New Jersey.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
And thanks for the explanation. We want to hear more about the tax impact now from Ms. Kampora. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. I've been working with the district as the project has been developed to come up with a tax impact to minimize the new impact to the taxpayers. So in 2005, the district sold bonds for other projects, and those bonds are getting paid off in 2024. So the district has been planning this project to coincide with retiring the debt of the 2005 bonds. And that's how we've come to this calculation of having a zero tax impact on the new debt. As been mentioned before, there's capital reserve that's going to be able to pay partial amount of the debt, but that state aid together with the capital reserve and layering this into the expiration of the existing debt is going to allow this referendum to be approved with a zero tax impact. So no additional taxes will be levied for these projects. We're planning to sell the bonds for 25 years. And everyone's been hearing about interest rate increases. The rates that we sell these bonds are tax exempt rates. So they're lower than any of the other interest rates that you'd be getting for a mortgage or any regular, what are called taxable rates. So we're projecting a rate of 4.25% for 25 years. We're going to be selling these bonds soon after the referendum in November. We're going to sell them before the end of the year. so that the new debt service can be picked up in the next year's budget. So the district's next budget starts July 1, 2024. So we need to sell the bonds quickly and have that into your next budget to have that smooth continuation of your existing debt service payments. We'll have call provisions. If rates drop, we'll be able to refinance the bonds just like anyone could refinance a home mortgage. I started to talk about this 4.25% interest rate. It's still a good rate in terms of borrowing for public entities. But again, we do have provisions if rates decrease that we can refinance the bonds at some point. Mr. Duthie talked about the construction schedule, and the proceeds of the bonds will be invested during the construction schedule, and there will be interest earned. So that's going to be beneficial to the district. You know, as borrowing rates have gone up, investment rates have gone up too. Probably everyone's experienced that, at least to some extent recently too. So during the construction period, which I think Mr. Duthie said is going to go through 2025, there will be the opportunity to earn some interest on those proceeds as that money is being spent down. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. So we do have a question from our audience about the referendum. And I'm going to ask Ms. McCabe to answer this for us. What happens if the referendum fails?
So if the bond referendum is not approved, the district would still need to address the school's needs for additional space and renovations. The schools would not receive the $7.2 million in state aid toward the improvements, meaning the full costs of any projects would end up on the local tax bills.
Thank you. Do you have any more questions from our audience? Are there any questions from our live audience here? Another question, if you do not have any children in the schools anymore, why would you vote for this?
So we can't tell you how to vote, but we can say that a community usually or always benefits by having updated schools. The strength of the community is directly related to the strength of its schools. We're already drawing families to Woodbury by being able to offer tuition-free preschool. And the West End addition would let us accept more students. If we made any of these improvements through the regular budget, we would not have access to the state aid that comes with an approved bond referendum. We'd also be able to make the new West End gym available to the community for uses that follow the board policy.
Thank you. So we've heard a lot of good information about the referendum, and that information is excellent for us to know, but it's also important to make a plan to vote on or before November 7th. Every ballot, every last one of these ballots count in a bond referendum, and you know, the election can be decided by a single vote. So there are three ways to vote in Woodbury Schools referendum. Because the school district has added its bond proposal to the general election ballot, people can vote early and do so in person. Well, how does that work? Well, New Jersey offers early voting at specific locations starting on Saturday, October 28th, and running through Sunday, November 5th. Keep in mind that there is no early voting on Monday, November 6th, the day before regular polls open. So with early voting, a registered voter can go to any of the special locations and vote in person with a regular voting machine. Times and locations are visited or listed on our website. So please go to our website if you're looking for times and locations to vote early. And the second way is to vote by mail. And that could be done anytime from now through November 7th. A voter who previously applied for mail-in voting on all elections should have received your ballot several weeks ago. Please check your mail. If you still want to apply for a mail-in ballot, you can fill out an application and send it to the Gloucester County Clerk's Office. That simple form is on our website. Again, that form, if you need to apply for mail-in ballot, is on our website. And it must be received by the county by October 31st for their office to send you a mail-in ballot in time for this election. So you still have some time left if you want to get an application for mail-in ballot. When your application is accepted, the county will send you a mail-in ballot. That's when postmark matters. It must have that marked by November 7th to count in this referendum. You can also deposit your ballot in a drop box or bring it directly to the county clerk's office by 8 p.m. that day. Mail-in ballots will not be accepted at in-person polling locations. Again, the mail-in ballots will not be accepted at an in-person polling location. There's an alternative way to use the postal system that has a later deadline. You can handle the entire vote by mail process in person. To do that, go to county clerk's office in Woodbury to ask for an application. Rather than mailing in your application, do that by 3 p.m. on Monday, November 6th, and you can mark your ballot and turn it in during the same in-person visit. No postal system required. So you can go to the county office on the 6th, and then you can fill out your application by 3 p.m., mark your ballot, and you can turn it in with no postal system required. Of course, third way to vote is a traditional method of going to your assigned polling place in person. Get out to vote. Polls will be open from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, November 7th. Again, you can go to our website for those locations also. If you aren't sure which poll to go to, check our website. I know it's a lot of information, a lot of dates and times. Be assured that all of that and much more is on our website. Please see it also for more information, including FAQs for our frequently asked questions, a video on the referendum, and more project details. We will also post a recording of this session on the website. Maybe you want to go back and listen to the information, and feel free to reach out to us if you have questions. So I want to thank all of the district leaders, all of our professional consultants on our panel tonight, and thanks for the community members who joined in person. Thank you, audience, and virtually to learn about this November 7th bond referendum, to give our students space for success. This decision is a very, very important decision for our schools and for our entire school community. We will update you, and please remember to vote. Have a great night.